Om. 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 Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Offering my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Sai, who has been merciful to keep us in constant contemplation through his diamonds, whom I would refer, as motley people, we can refer to them as alumni of the Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. And every week, Swami has been teaching us something, that when his sankalpa is there, things will happen, and it only goes on re-emphasizing the same each week, and for us trying to continue. Once in a while we also come to think whether will this happen this week, but then if that faith is there that that speaker
It will.
who was destined to speak for that day is actually decided by him, and we are just people trying to reach out looking for a speaker. And today's speaker is a person whom I have known for some time, but as silent as they are, the gems of Sai do not go and profess that they are gems. You need to know that they are gems. And we have yet another gem from the Sathya Sai Institute here today with us, whose journey, if I were with many of us, when you actually look at their family history or their journey to Sai, it starts to get a bit boring as well, because it's very similar, because Swami chooses to come into your life. So if I were to go with the standard instruction, introduction, it will be a family that got into the Sai fold in the 1960s, had the son getting on to Balvikas and then becoming a Sevadal, then goes through the earthly surgeon of studying all kinds of degrees, and then finally yearning to study in the Sathya Sai Institute, where mind on Baba always happens, and they study an MBA degree. And that just is just another excuse to stay close to Swami. And then Swami suddenly, when there is this instinct for them to stay close to Swami, Swami packs them away somewhere, only for them to yearn more to come back. And then the same thing happens where he blesses you and you come back, and then you stay in the fold and you think everything is going hunky-dory. And as always, Swami will say parents first. So one fine day, from that Prashanthi that you have created for yourself in Prashanthi Nilayam, you go back and do your primary duty, which Swami says is always our parents. And our speaker for today, after 16 years at Prashanthi Nilayam in various capacities working with the General Hospital, went back to his home turf in Mumbai to take care of his parents, and is associated with Tata Sons, a player gifted to play the tabla, a part of the Prashanthi Mandir group, and one who has had many an occasion of interaction with Swami on Kodaikanal trips, was blessed to be part of the entourage that went to Hachi in Mumbai. Someone I thought who was actually a singer, I found out is actually a tabla player today. My friend, my brother Neeraj Acharya, our speaker for today. Sai Ram, and thank you for being an nth minute acceptor. And I'm as curious as everyone to figure out what Swami has got in store for us, which is going to be our mantra to take this week along, as mundane as it can be, but as blissful as we want it to be. Sai Ram, and looking forward to hearing you.
Sai Ram, brother Venkat. Am I audible? It's clear. Okay, thank you. Firstly, I must say that I'm grateful to the whole group for inviting me for this session, because that gives me an opportunity to again rethink sort of nostalgic moments about whatever memories, incidents that I have had with Bhagwan. And it's a great opportunity for me. And I always feel every day brings you in touch with more people, just for you to know that your family is, is Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. It's really a practical example of that. So to start with, I offer my loving, heartful prayers to Bhagwan, who is the heart and soul and the purpose of uh, almost all of us here. And I'm so glad that I got this chance to sort of share some of my thoughts, some moments that were spent with the living avatar. To talk about Swami is a bit tricky, right? I mean, firstly, to know what God is and what avatar is by itself is a vast subject. And to talk about that, that I feel even that story of elephant, which all of us have read about, the blind men going to look for the elephant and trying to gauge different parts and talking a little bit about it. Uh, Here it is even more bigger, and how to talk about is something that keeps everyone spellbound. But having said that, I realize that the more we sort of hear about Bhagwan, learn about him, that gives sort of various aspects of the avatar's magnanimity. And Brother Venkat was mentioning about diamond. I truly believe that all of us are Swami's diamonds, and each one of us, like a diamond, has the more the cuts, the more precious it is. Each one of us is one cut of that avtaric mission, and we all, each one of us, reflect that love of Bhagwan that he was in his expansive form. So thank you very much again for inviting me. And this all happened today, and I was just thinking what I should start with, and I just can't but share with you one emotional moment which happened yesterday. Yesterday evening, I went for Saturday evening. We have bhajan nearby in one of our samitis, and as of now, it is in a hybrid mode. So the bhajan group gets together in one location, whereas all the other participants join online and listen. But I attended physically, so to say, the bhajan location, going there and singing. So singing live in the whole group is a totally different experience. So I attended that after quite a while because of various things at home and certain personal needs. And it was a fantastic experience. And there was one bhajan which really took me off to my student days. And that bhajan is so full of bhav and beautiful wordings. And the bhajan was Sai Charan Sukhadai Man, Sai Charan Sukhadai Man, Sai Bina Jeena Kya Hai, Sai Bina Jeena Kya Hai, Sai Bina Jeena Kya Hai, Sai Bina Jeena Kya Hai. The tune, the wordings are so touchy. I just was transported into the Prashanthi days of sitting in the bhajan hall and watching Swami. And the same bhajan I must have heard many times, looking at Bhagwan's beautiful form. And the first line is so touchy. Sai Charan Sukhadai Man. The, the divine feet of our Sai Lord, they make your heart, mind so full of happiness. Sukh, much more bigger definition of happiness. But the second line becomes a bit poignant, right? Sai bina jeena kya hai? And that made me a bit emotional about remembering those days. Um, and I thought, how is it that while being in touch with Bhagwan and having got that blessed, unique opportunity of being a contemporary of Avatar, why is it that, is it right to miss his form? That sort of a emotional turmoil happened. And but Swami, as beautiful Lord he is, he gives you the answer immediately the next moment. So if you go to the next line, Mata hi tu, Pita hi tu, Mata hi tu, Pita hi tu, Aao Bhagavan Dijo Darshan, Aao Bhagavan Dijo Darshan. So it gives you the process by which Ao Bhagwan Dijo Darshan. Now, where do you get his darshan now? Can be the next question. Swami doesn't leave you there. The next line is the one which Bas jao sai man mandir mein, Bas jao sai man mandir mein, साई बिना जीना क्या है, साई बिना जीना क्या है. So that one line is gave me that answer. बस जाओ साई मन मंदिर में. That expands the definition of avatar. Sai is not just the form. The form had its own beauty, own charm, its own sweet memories, which forever will stay with all of us. What is most important is to keep that Sai in his magnanimous form within our hearts. And after that, when we go back to that line, Sai bina jeena kya hai, it gives a different meaning, right? So if we keep Sai in our heart, then how do we even live without having him in our heart? Not possible, right? So that can be a sort of a beautiful perspective of what the Sai avatar is about, and helps, every time such sort of understanding of realization comes, that takes you more deeper and sort of connected with Bhagwan. So I enjoyed it, and I thought I must share this with this beautiful group, because I know there are many music lovers on today's session, and I think bhajan is universal, and all of us love bhajans, and that is one of the easiest and beautiful ways of connecting with Bhagwan. So I thought maybe we will share something on those similar lines on how beautiful and how loving and how unique Sai Charan is. And I still remember my journey with Swami sort of took a turn with the event of Padmanaskar, and I thought I must share that with you. So Brother Venkat gave the trailer of the movie. He told all about coming from a Sai family. I went there and joined the Sevadal group in Dharmakshektra. And it was a fantastic experience of probably the first time of experiencing Swami's love in doing service. And that actually had a sort of gave me a direction in my life. At that point, however, when I was doing my engineering, I had sort of chalked out my future plans very, very clear, that I wanted to complete my engineering and I wanted to go abroad to do my MS, which was very clear in my mind. And my cousin, who was my mentor, who had even assured me that once you have all the qualifications and the exams scoring done, you will find a good university where you can do your postgraduate. So that was very clear as far as my career path is concerned. So I absolutely was focused on it. Complete my engineering, simultaneously prepare for GRE TOEFL and apply for some PG degree, most likely that time in the US. So this was very clearly chalked out plan. At that point, I started going to Dharmakshektra, and I came to know about this beautiful alumni group who were earlier part of Dharmakshektra Sevadal, who had got admission into Swami's college and were studying there. And in those days, there were no emails, no mobile phones. So the communication used to happen in the form of letters. And it was a joy. I remember those around the same Sunday evening days, we used to finish our work during the day, Sunday morning till afternoon. And afternoon on a cup of tea, all of us, about 10 to 15 of us, will gather together and there was a person, brother Tushar Bhai, who used to guide us on our duties and admissions in Prashanthi Nilayam. And he would get these letters and he will come, and during the chai time, with a typical Bombay dish of vada pav or something like that, we used to open those letters. But what was more yummy was the content of the letters than the food. And we will just read out. And there were some, I would say, unique brothers we had who used to probably had picked up that quality, something that we can enjoy from Kasturi sir's writing, that way of putting in such a way that you can actually visualize the event as it happened in Prashanthi. At least I remember two of them who were so good in writing the whole event that happened. And it was a joy to read it. And all of us used to actually feel that we are in Prashanthi when we heard those, when we read those letters. And that sort of triggered some interest in me. And a bit surprisingly, I don't know why, before that, in spite of being in Swami's fold right from my childhood, somehow, I don't know why, but I never felt like studying in Prashanthi. I really don't know the reason. Maybe there was no divine call. Maybe that is the only thing I can think about. So at that point, when I started reading these letters from these students who were that time studying in Prashanthi, I was mesmerized. This is something that we must look for. But anyway, as far as career is concerned, still my focus was clear about doing my postgraduate abroad and settling down. But I wanted to explore what happens in Prashanthi. So, but then, our monkey mind always keeps you focused on our worldly thoughts and desires. But it happened that after I completed my third year, I had a vacation for about a month, and exactly that point of time, there was a Prashanthi Seva for Maharashtra group. And that was my first time I went as a volunteer in Prashanthi Seva to Prashanthi Nilayam, my younger brother and me and my mother. 1992, September. And surprisingly, or not definitely coincidentally, I would say incidentally, as you would have heard from Professor Dr. San Weiss. My first duty was in Sathya Hospital, completely out of blue, in 1992. In fact, all three of us, my mother, my younger brother, and I was placed for duty there. I had no idea what happens in the hospital, but I still remember I was posted in the cardiac cath lab just to help out the team with some of the things, managing the stores, getting the items from store, the sundry works. And I remember this event. There was this Swami student, brother HSD Srinivas. I met him. He was the manager of cardiac cath lab. It was just 1 year then for the hospital. 1991 it started. This was 1992. And one day I was chatting with him about the work, and I asked him what. I didn't know who was he. I just came to know his name is Srinivas, and I was just chatting. And during the chat, I asked him, what did you study? And he said, he is an engineer. I said, oh, so am I, budding engineer. Which engineering? He said, BE Mechanical. I said, oh, same is here. I'm now going to complete in a year's time, BE Mechanical. I asked this question to him. Then I said, engineer, what are you doing in the hospital? And then he laughed. And he said that after my engineering, I did MBA in Swami's college. And then Swami asked me to work here. I was a bit perplexed. I said, first of all, you're an engineer, and then you have done your management. And what are you doing in the hospital? I thought you must be a doctor or technicians to work here. He just smiled, didn't say anything much to me. But Swami had a message which I was supposed to learn later in my life. So it just went on. At that time, I realized that there is a management course in Prashanthi Nilayam, and it sort of brought in some curiosity to know what is it about. And I used to ask with my Dharmakshektra brothers and Tushar Bhai about it, and some sort of a curiosity came up. But the main turning point happened at the end of the Sevadal our seva period. That time the seva used to happen for 2 weeks. So 14 days was done. And I would say the most cherished moment, apart from of course the seva that we do and the opportunity that we get, is the Pad Namaskar that Swami would give on the last day when we complete the seva. So it so happened that we completed our 14 days, and next day was the Pad Namaskar day. So the instructions were given, do's and don'ts, all those things. And next day morning, we were supposed to sit in the Prashanthi Mandir complex. Place was designated, and they said Swami would come and give Pad Namaskar. And all the discipline aspects, everything was told about. So I realized that in that event, the time that you may get, probably, if at all you get to interact, will be very short. You may not even get a chance to interact. But if you want to do something, probably you can give a letter, is what I understood. So I still remember the previous day night. Next day morning is the Pad Namaskar day. Previous day night in our room, we had taken a room outside. We are not in Mandir room. My mother, my younger brother, and I, we were just talking about how was the seva and anticipation for next day's Pad Namaskar. And it just happened during the conversation, the topic came about, now that you are going to enter your final year of engineering, why don't you ask Swami that what should you do after engineering? Now my reply from my typical engineering logical mind was that, what is there to ask Bhagwan? I am very clear about, he has given me the direction, what I have to do. My path is set, that I want to do my MS. But anyway, the second thought which came at that point of time to me was that maybe this is the chance I can get Swami's blessings, because the process of getting admission abroad is also a long drawn process at various events and various universities that we need to apply for. So I thought it's a good opportunity. The path is known, you take divine blessings, so it becomes very clear path to sort of trade upon. So I said, fine, let me take this opportunity to sort of reach out to Bhagwan. So then when I thought that I may not get a chance to ask anything to Swami, so I wrote in a letter, a small half page, I am in Swami, I am in the final, I had just entered the final year of engineering, and please guide me what I should do after my engineering. Just 3-4 lines. And I kept it with me. Next day morning, we all sat for the Pad Namaskar, and as Swami was approaching us in the line, I had already done sort of a mock rehearsal that I sat on my knees so that I can just get up a bit and extend my letter to Bhagwan. And if he takes it, it's good. If I get a chance to ask him, I would avail that opportunity. So as Bhagwan neared, he looked at the letter. As he came close, I just was exploring whether I can ask him something, but it happened so quick, and you would have seen Bhagwan. He's never in a hurry, but he's so quick. And I knew that I may not get a chance to ask him anything. So I just gave the letter. I didn't want to miss the Pad Namaskar. So I just murmured to Bhagwan, Swami, I'm in the final year of engineering. Aage kya karna hai? No response. So Swami had already gone about a step or two ahead. So I don't want to lose Pad Namaskar. I just quickly bent down, took Namaskar. And as I got up, I saw that Swami had stopped and was looking at me. And he asked me, what did you say? That sort of question. So I repeated, Swami, मैं engineering के final year में हूँ, और उसके बाद क्या करना है? Swami just looked and smiled, and just one liner reply, and that time the music was going on, so it was not very feeble, gentle voice. He said something, just 3 words that I heard was, chance मिलेगा, MBA करो. That's all. And he moved on. And that one, I would say, 1 or 2 moments, the seconds, that particular episode, that had a turn around in my life, because after that particular interaction, I don't know what happened, that changed in my, I can say, my heart or my mind or whatever. I came back and I told my mother and my brother that I'm going to complete my engineering, and if at all I study anything after engineering, it will be MBA, and it will be in Swami's college, nothing else. That's all. that was a turning point. I really don't know. I mean, of course, there is nothing that is surprising when it comes to avatar, and we many times relate avatar as Paras money, right? He turns even iron into gold. Uh, I don't know whether something like that ever existed, but I have seen multiple instances where Bhagwan has just given one touch in somebody's life, and that has changed their life forever. And thousands of such examples that I'm sure each one of us would have gone through. And for me, that was that alchemist movement where he touched my life to sort of give a remarkable turn, which gave a completely different direction to my life. And when I came back, I was very clear that only thing forward is complete my engineering, prepare for MBA, and that's all. Do MBA only in Swami's course. That was very clear. So I started little bit of preparation, but our mind is so tricky at how it takes you, because one thing I was very happy that Swami has told me to do engineering. I mean, to do MBA. So there is nothing looking back, and I will get admission. I was very clear about it. I was not even that interested to apply for our campus interviews, but it happened so, which typically happens in Mumbai University. The exams go on till about August. Our exams got over in August. So it was not possible to join in the same year in Prashanthi because the admissions closed by month of May. So I said, fine, it's okay. I will wait for a few more months. So I got a campus placement. I started working, but I was clear. Next summer, I apply in Bhagwan's college and I do my MBA. Monkey mind, I thought Swami has told that you will get MBA. Where is the preparation? When the chancellor tells you that you are going to get admission, it's a written on golden stone, so nothing to worry about. So anyway, I prepared a little bit about from whatever I heard from my connects in Prashanthi and my guidance from some of the well-wishers in Mumbai. And I prepared for the MBA course, but not really that much time spent. But I was very confident that my devotion, my bhakti will take care of it. And Swami has told, so nothing to worry about. So I went for the entrance test. So typical format was the written test followed by group discussion and interviews. So the written test on the first day was complete bouncers, and I was really shattered. Many of the questions I didn't know. It was all multiple choice questions with negative marking, and there were some descriptive sessions also. So anyway, I wrote whatever I could, praying to Bhagwan, and with the only confidence that Bhagwan has told me, and he will sail me through. So next day morning, very hesitantly, I go to the college because typically the process happens that there is a filtering of students after the written test, and only those shortlisted candidates go for the GD and group discussion and interviews. I was really sort of perspiring because I had not done well in my written test. I knew that. When I went to see the list and I went through, not finding my name somewhere there, somewhere down below, I find my name. I was shortlisted, went it, and then it was absolutely confident that no, now nothing looking back, and I did my discussion, interviews went on well. As expected, the interviews were on my engineering, my experience, and of course, Sathya Sai background. Anyway, that went on well. I came back to Mumbai, and when I joined the organization back after my holidays, I taken that 1 week off. I started sort of getting ready for putting down my papers because I have to hand over. And it was not a difficult process because it was just my first year into the organization, so it was not difficult to hand over. But I was preparing just to ensure that the team is aware of it. But I had not, of course, told them about this interview process. Uh, I had told somebody who had stayed back in Prashanthi to tell me as soon as the list is out, when the results are declared, please call me. The time you tell me that I am through, I will put down the papers. And that time the notice period was not much because I was still on the first year probation. I'll quickly wind up in a week's time and ready to go to Prashanthi. So the sister of mine who was there, so one day she called me. It was in the afternoon, Tuesday or so, around 3 o'clock, and the conversation started that no, this student has got into BCom, this student got into MBA, this student into BSc. She's not telling about what is happening to me. So I asked her, what happened to my selection? She said that you are not selected. And I was completely shattered at that point because I didn't know what that really meant. Because here I was having a plan of doing certain things in my life as a part of engineering and MS. And Swami gave me direction to do MBA. And I apply for it and I get rejected. It's not something easy to accept, right? Typically for a human ego. But more than that, my confidence was shattered because I thought, have I understood Swami clearly? Did he really mean that I have to do MBA? I don't know. And that sort of a dilemma started coming. And thankfully, my mother was my mentor, and she said, don't think that way. Think that probably Swami wants you to apply again. Maybe not this year, but there's nothing wrong in trying it again. It's not always necessary that you get your success on the first go. And but your mind plays all the tricks. So I was not really sure whether Swami really wanted me. He didn't say that you do MBA in my college. Swami didn't say that. I took it that Swami said that I should do MBA. So this was one dilemma which was there, because what happened when I started preparing for the next year's entrance, I wanted to do it properly because I had learned the lesson that unless you do your efforts, you will not get anything in life. That was a big message that Swami gave me. At the same time, I was thinking, is it worthwhile to put that many efforts, or should I re-look into doing my seva in Dharmakshektra and my further studies in engineering? That's sort of a dilemma. And I wanted an answer from Bhagwan, no other than Bhagwan. He is the one who will clear all our doubts. And it happened again this was the next September, and it's October, I think, 93, 94. And I had been to Vrindavan. Swami was in Vrindavan then. And I had taken off from my office work for about 10 days. My parents also had come, and they came back earlier because my father didn't have leave for such a long time. So I stayed back. And I wanted to ask Bhagwan, please give me clarity on this. You want me to do MBA? I will devote all my sweat and blood to apply for your course. But if it is not supposed to be, then you should just clarify. I will be very clear, then I will focus on my sevas and my probably pursuit into other education. So it typically happened that way in Vrindavan, that I never got, forget about first line, not even a single digit line. It was always to be 50, 54, 30, all, and I never got a good line to sort of sit in front. And probably that gave me indication that you can't expect Bhagwan to tell you everything so clearly. You have to make a pure decision. But anyway, I didn't leave it. So I made a pact with Bhagwan. I said, in my first instance, my connect to you was through a letter, and you guided me. So now this time also, I will seek a reply through a letter. You may not speak, but at least through letter, you tell me what is your answer. So I wrote a small piece of letter in which I said about that I wish to apply, and this is my second attempt. So please guide me. Am I eligible to study in your college? And if not, I'm fine with it, but I need your guidance. I just wrote, I need your guidance. And the deal which I had made with Bhagwan was, if you take this letter, then that is the indication for me that, yes, continue with your, and this I had written, by the way, documented agreement. If you take my letter, then it is an indication for me that I should continue my MBA. And if you don't take, which seems to be happening because the way the number of the token lines that I'm getting at somewhere rare side of the hall that I get to sit normally, doesn't seem to happen, but it's okay. If you make it clear, if you don't take the letter, it's very clear to me that the MBA in Prashanthi is not for me. It's fine. And I will chart a different course. But it's okay as long as the direction is clear. So I had about 3-4 days more to go. Every day I would go with letter, morning and evening. All different lines, or even if I get a bit of maybe a second or third line. In Vrindavan, you have those big hall with those square blocks. If I'm sitting in block number 5, he will go from block number 3 or whatever it is, and as typical as Swami's. And this was the last day. There was just one day to go, and one day before I was leaving. And I was praying fervently to Bhagavan that, no, please guide me. And I'm okay to accept whatever decision you give. But if you don't take the letter, I'm clear that MBA is not for me and I will drop my studies. Next day is my final day. The previous day evening, in those days in Vrindavan, the evening, typically Swami would come and directly sit on the dais, on the stage. There won't be darshan round. So morning darshan, I lost the chance. There was no opportunity to sort of reach out to Bhagwan. So that means that left me with only one chance, which was the next day morning, my last day of stay there. The previous day evening, when I went for the bhajans, I sat there. I was sitting in second or third line in the floor. The bhajans, the indication was the bhajan starts. That means Swami has just stepped out of tray and is coming towards the Sai Ravish. So the Omkar started, and that coveted moment that we would look for in Vrindavan, that opening of that wooden door. Now we would wait for the door to open and that beautiful sight of Swami coming for darshan. All of us waiting for that. And it went on for about 5-6 minutes and Swami is not coming out from there. And I was wondering what is happening. And then there was some commotion on the side. Of course, gents side is here, ladies side is here. And there was some commotion on the lady side on the, towards the road where the Kalyan Mandap is now. And we saw Swami has come out there. He has not come on the stage. He has come out near the Kalyan Mandap. And then I realized there was a group of people who had come. I don't know which group, but they had come from some seva or whatever it is. And Swami had decided to give blessings to that group. So he had come, he went through, distributed some gifts, blessed them. And we thought he will come and then sit for the bhajans. That was the typical thing we thought about. Surprisingly, that day, after blessing them, Swami walked into the hall, Sai Ramesh hall, and started giving darshan. Completely unusual for an evening session in Vrindavan. And to tell you honestly, my heart stopped. Why? Because that day morning after darshan, when I had gone back to room, the letter which was in my pocket, I had put it in my book. Because I had put it on my table, thinking that I should not put it on, it might get spoiled or something. And when I came in the evening, I thought I have not taken that letter with me because Swami would not come for darshan. I thought I can't even walk out now to bring that letter. To my room was nearby ashram. I was thinking what to do, and I had a book that time, and it was incidentally Loving God by Kasturi. That those days books were allowed to be taken for darshan, and I had taken that book, and I just quickly flipped through, and lo, the letter is there, and it was not a miracle. What had happened was I had really kept it on table, but because of the fan, it was sort of blowing that letter away. So I had put it inside the book, and afternoon, without knowing that it is inside the book, I had taken the book, and along with this letter came. So I was happy. Oh, thank God, letter is there. But again, your anxiety comes even if you have the letter which has happened on earlier 20 occasions at least, that no, Swami has not come near. Would he come? Would he not? There is no guarantee, no surety, right? Uncertainties are ways of life typically with Bhagavan. And those are his beautiful moments. So anyway, Swami came and he actually came towards the block where I was sitting. And as it would have it, when he started walking, he was walking towards the other side of the block, not towards the place where I was sitting. And I thought, again, I'm losing the chance. Fortunately, during halfway, he came towards the block where I was sitting. But in my mind, I had made it very clear that as a part of discipline, I will not get up. It's not expected. I will not get up. I will stretch. I will get on my knees and stretch the letter, because if you want to take the letter, you will take it from wherever it is. So I will not definitely step ahead. Third line, from that line, I will extend. If you want to take, you will take. If you don't take, I'm okay with that. That's your decision. Swami comes near, and my heart is pounding, really, literally pounding. And in my heart, there was only one prayer: Swami, whatever it is, you give me the direction. What I'm okay, whichever way you say. But just make it clear. And I just extended the letter. Swami came towards where I sat. he didn't even look at me. He didn't probably look at the letter as well. There was a foreigner who was sitting next to, just ahead of me, and Swami started talking to him. I really don't have a clue what he spoke because I was not in a mind to think of anything else. It's just one prayer that Swami, this is the time for you to give the decision, and I am okay with whatever you decision you give. I'm perfectly fine. Uh, just extending the letter. Swami doesn't look at me, just turns around, starts walking. And as he turned around, he just extended his hand like this, and with his two fingers like this, he plucked the letter in my hand without even looking at me and went in. And that was a big aha moment, so to say. And then it gave me confidence that yes, what Swami has said, it will happen. But probably the first time that I applied, it was that overconfidence, and without efforts, nothing works. You can't expect just blessings of Bhagwan. It doesn't happen. You have to put your efforts. In fact, that year I remember, I I filled the form for the management, the CAT, CAT exam, which used to be at that time for All India management selection, just because so that I will prepare for Bharti MBA. I was not interested to apply anywhere else, but so that I will be prepared, I wrote that exam. I attended a course, a formal training course. Apart from, I used to go after my office hours, do that course, do homework over weekends, and prepared for it. And 1995, when I applied, finally, the selection happened, but with a big message from Bhagwan that you only grace and blessings are not enough. Your efforts have to be there, without which nothing moves. That is a big learning, not only for that particular episode, but rest of my life. And and one more learning which Bhagwan gave us, if you see, in spite of being in Swami's fold for those 20 odd years, the turning point comes from a Path Namaskar, which happened at the end of Seva. So it is the Seva which actually takes you very close to Bhagwan. And I remember that discourse in 1997 when that year Swami stopped giving Path Namaskar for Seva. And he gave a discourse in which he sort of literally announced it. And he said that it's not that I don't want to give Path Namaskar, but henceforth, you take the Path Namaskar inside your heart. The Swami's feet are in your heart. You don't require to touch physically. He explained that in the discourse. And to tell you honestly, I didn't understand what that meant. But later on, over years, when I reflect on it, it is so important, right? I mean, how long would you hold on to physical form? At some point, it has to be internalized. And I think Bhagwan has given us a clear direction. The two charans that we should keep in our heart, very clear, which are printed in Prashanthi, now on the Samadhi, which is a typical tagline of any Sathya Sai organization or even an individual, I should say. Love or serve. These two charans, Bhagwan Charan, love and serve. If these two things, Seva and love, if we keep in our heart, that is Path Namaskar. And that's what I understood much later. What Swami had explained that in the discourse. So that is the real Path Namaskar, which I feel is what is important. And that gives you a direction, right? And once when I got in, and I would like to share this with you, how Swami is a beautiful, or I would say loving, but at the same time a strict master. And whenever I talk about master, I want to share this. I have read this in with Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's storyline. Most of you would have read this. Paramahamsa ji used to say that somebody had asked him, are there different types of master? And he used to say that no, there are three types of master. It's a fantastic definition, and I will tell you why I love it. So he said there are different types of master, and he used to give an example of three types of doctors and draw a parallel. So he said doctor number one, so very proficient, very technically sound. So he looks at the patient, does all the investigation, looks at his pulse, everything, exact diagnosis, and tells him, take this and this medication. Done. And the sort of the episode ends there. This is one type of doctor, Swami said. Paramahamsa ji said. The second doctor Again, a very proficient, very good investigator, exactly diagnosis, tells the patient what is the remedy, what is the medicine he has to take. But he is one step ahead. Whenever he meets this patient, he inquires, are you taking medicine? Are you doing the pathya that I have told you? Are you following that? Must do. He keeps on inquiring. If he doesn't turn up, he will call him, find out, or ask his family to look after him. He's the second type of doctor, better than the first one. Then we said there is third type of doctor. Same, very intelligent, proficient, diagnoses well, advises well, follows up well with the patient, keeps on reminding. At one point, he comes to know from the family that this chap is a stubborn fellow. He doesn't follow your advice. Then this doctor goes to the home, brings the patient and says, just lie down. I want to again examine you. This is what Paramahansa has described. He makes him lie down. He sits on his chest, closes his nose so that his mouth opens and puts the medicine in his mouth. He says this is the third type of doctor and this is the best doctor because what he does is for the best interest of the patient. And that's similar if you draw to a master. That's what Paramahansa said. The third type of master is somebody who makes their disciple, their students, all of us are Swami students, by the way. If you don't listen by his advice, by his scheduling, he has his own ways to get the things done. And I have sort of that experience during my MBA interest. And even later, we don't learn from first instant, right? He knows how to tighten it. So I love that particular example because our master was really that master number 3. He will explain you what is to be done. He will continuously remind you what is to be done. In spite of that, if you don't follow, he has his means to get it done, and he will get it done. Everybody has a unique story. As Brother Venkat was saying, I was just thinking, while most of the students will have some sort of the same background of family, and then coming into Swami's fold as student and back, every, whether it is a student, alumni, or even a devotee, every person has a unique relationship with Bhagavan. Some different way he has touched each one's life, and I'm sure each one can write a book on Bhagavan's and the way he has transformed as that type number 3 master, if not through method 1 or 2, the third method of closing our nose and putting the medicine into our mouth. I thought I love that example, and that's the way I experienced the Bhagavan to be so loving and caring, at the same time so focused to ensure that his devotee walks on the path which he has prescribed. And he was such a master that he himself would walk that path and show. And I'll share that thing with you. In Kodai episode, with Swami's grace, I got chance to go 3 times to Kodai, and every time this experience was something which was memorable. Apart from the glamour of Kodai, where Swami takes the group of students and VIPs and undoubtedly the attention that we get, but more so the chance or the opportunity that we get to observe Avatar very closely, because he has come down in a human form, right, from that divine, maybe at a higher level, whatever we call it. He has come into a Murt form, and that form has come sort of to give us set up an example of how we should be in our life. So that Kodai episode sort of gave us a chance to observe him closely of how he lives his life. And one of the things which was always, which sort of inspired all of us, definitely me, was the typical thing which would happen as a Narayana Seva in Kodaikanal. At least once, sometimes twice during that 20 days sojourn at Kodaikanal. And the best part of it is, while every day would be a delicious menu or whatever it is, that is one side, but the Swami's involvement in Narayana Seva was so intense, and we could see almost 4 or 5 days before the actual event, he would be planning, checking with the people, have you got enough stock of grains? He would specifically instruct. that don't compromise on anything. The vegetables may be costlier in Kodaikanal, which is, of course, being a hilly region and tourist place. I want you to use a lot of vegetables because what we have to give has to be of top quality. So don't compromise. Good sambar with full of vegetables so that people can enjoy. Make delicious food, good sweet, and one very clear indication he would give every time when he would tell the Sevadal as well as all of us students when we will do the serving, that never refuse the serving to anybody. If they want twice, you should give. Thrice, you should give. How many times they want food to be taken, it should be given because the purpose is to satisfy the Narayan and you must do that. In fact, he made it very clear. This is a hilly region, you should understand. See the practicality of Bhagwan. He said, this is not like other places. There may be some people who cannot travel all the distance to come to Sai Shruti, the ashram where Swami's ashram where the Narayan Seva would happen. So some of them, their younger people will come, but the parents may be at in their houses because they can't travel the long distance. So if they ask that they need prasadam for parents, no question asked. If they say there are 3 people in the house, you would pack 3 packets and give. No questions asked. This was a very clear instruction. See the practical aspect. Another thing of it, he will ask, get the cooks to come and he will discuss how you should prepare. In fact, the previous day night, Swami will stay extra hours, go at night to see the kitchen because almost overnight the whole cooking will happen. He will go and examine the cleanliness, preparedness, everything. He will monitor to ensure next day morning the serving happens. And the beautiful part was while he will guide us, the Sevadal as well as students, how we should serve. The next day morning, as the plates were laid, Swami as a typical practical leader, he would come and serve first few plates himself to show. And it was a joy to watch, the perfection in every act of Bhagwan. The way he will pick up with the ladle the food, it's so particular. He will say that don't allow even a drop to fall down because this is Narayan Seva, this is a prasadam, and anything falling on the ground will go waste, and you should not waste prasadam. So when you put it, ensure that you put it rightly into the plates, and he would say, this side you put sambar rice, this side you put the sweet, this side you put the curd rice, all arranged, so well planned. And he would go even to that extent that, see, serve in such a way that your sambar rice doesn't get mixed with the sweet. They are 2 different dishes. You can't put them together. So ensure there is a sufficient distance. So he will serve and show. This is the way you should put it, so that it goes as if you are treating your best of your guests at home. And it was a big learning for me to watch Bhagavan so closely, which normally doesn't happen in Prashanthi because we are just there as students, and in Mandir you don't get this chance. But in Kodaikanal, to see him in this finer aspects was something amazing. So that is the way a leader shows through his own example, and that's something that we learned during the Kodaikanal sojourn. And that path, the Narayan Seva was something which was a remarkable event. Swami would thoroughly enjoy. And I still remember that moment. The typical Narayan Seva event will happen for about, it will start at 7:30, we'll start serving. By 8, we'll start distributing. By 10:30, 11, everything is over. And by around 11:30, 12, all the Narayanas will go back happily, fill their stomach. Around 12 o'clock, Swami comes back to Sai Shruti in the hall where he used to sit. And I still can visualize that event. Swami came back beaming with joy. Almost 5 years he has been 5 hours he has been there serving in the hot climate at that time. But he comes back and he just sat on his chair and he uttered this sentence in Telugu. Iroju naka chala trupti. Today I have got a lot of happiness, contentment, joy, trupti. Narayana Seva baga aindi. Narayana chala baga tinnaru. Narayana Seva went on very well. All the Narayanas had good food. As if he had himself eaten, which is in a sense true as well, right? Because Bhagwan is there in each of those Narayanas, and that's why we call it Narayanaseka. What an example! I still remember that moment when he just came and sat in the chair with that joy. I have never seen that joy in Bhagwan's, I mean, that sort of expression when he himself is eating. In fact, uh, he really didn't actually enjoy it, or rather was fond of the food. In fact, I must share this, many of you might know. This is another thing that we used to get a chance to observe in Kodaikanal. So we will sit in the same dining hall where Swami also would sit in one corner. There was a beautiful table was laid down, and he will come and see how he used to act as a host. So even before all of us came down and went to the dining hall, or the invitees, the guests came in, Swami will go there down first to the dining hall, go to the kitchen, check with the kitchen staff, is the food ready, everything ready, and then he will call up, hey, come, and then he will ask all of us to come in. So typically we would go there and sit in the dining hall, and the corner the table is laid for Swami, and we will all sit on the other tables which are there, about 20 tables at a time, and food will be served. Typically the serving will be done by students, and Bhagwan also will be served at the same time. And once the food is served, we will all do Brahmarpana, and we will do the chanting. Can you imagine, by the time we did Brahmarpanam and did Om Shanti and close the prayers, within those maybe 20 seconds or 25 seconds, Swami has finished. He would wash his hands, and when we would all start eating, he will come and observe, and he will give his comments. Oh, you eat properly, don't, or serving wise also, don't drop anything down, or if somebody is little more too fat, or don't put sweet to him, he's already fat. I will tell you one incident which is another amazing thing which happened, not with our batch, one of our seniors, but it is fantastic. So this student had gone to Kodaikanal many times, a fantastic singer, a fantastic musician, composer as well, and a fantastic orator also. Very, very talented student. He was also professor at one point. And Tom used to make fun of him. He was studying, he was teaching when I had joined. He left after 2 years. So one of the Kodais when he went, so Swami, before the Kodai event, Swami said, this year I don't think I should take you, because every time I take you to Kodai, you put on another 5 kilos. You are already fat. This food plate, Swami, please, I will give you a promise. I will not add on even one kilo. Swami said, see, this is what you say every time, but it doesn't happen. So Swami put the condition. This time I will take you to Kodai, provided you will not eat sweets, because that's what adds fat to you. He promised, yes, Swami, I will not take sweets. So his name was added to Kodai list, and he went. Now, as the luck will have it, or whatever, or as typically the way Swami tests us, in one of the lunch sessions, that day the sweet was, I think, motichur laddu or something, which is the most favorite dish of this student brother of mine. Now the monkey mind plays the trick. So he says, I have promised Bhagwan, doesn't mind if what is wrong in if I take one bite of the laddu. I'm not taking whole laddu, I'll take one bite. So strategically, what he did was, he sat on the last table of the hall, corner most, so that he's out of Swami's sight. Very strategically got that place. And when the serving boys came, serving boys also know about this particular condition, so the boy didn't serve him the sweet. This fellow told the student, you put one laddu to me. And he was, I think, that time already a teacher, so the student couldn't refuse. He put the laddu. And by the time Swami was at his table and the Brahmarpanam happened, during Brahmarpanam, this brother prays to Swami, Swami, please forgive me for once. I will take half of the laddu, but please don't mind, because this is something I can't avoid. Please allow me to have just half of the laddu. Please excuse me. You are the Dayamaya, you are the Karunamaya. Please help me. And he says, during that prayer, instead of the regular Brahmarpanam, my prayer was, I am offering this laddu to you, but please permit me to have it. Anyway, so he really he said that was the most fervent Brahmarpanam he ever said in his life. Anyway, so he said Brahmarpanam, completed the prayer, and as he opens his eyes, what would happen? The laddu is missing from the plate. That is one, right? Bhagavan has ways of doing that. Swami standing at one of the tables and looking at him and smiling. And he lifts his hand and shows the laddu in his hand. So what Swami has fantastic leader. So he has seen that this fellow has taken laddu. So during Brahmarpanam, he has told one of the serving boys, you go and pick up the laddu. So when this chap was fervently praying, closing his eyes, the laddu was picked up and given to Bhagavan. Bhagavan shows him the laddu and says, you can't fool me, right? You can't play tricks with me. It's a humorous episode, but if you look at the Antararth, the message, two things. One, what Swami does for you is for your good, right? And once you have given that commitment, you must fulfill. If not, as doctor number 3, he will ensure that you fulfill the commitment. That is one learning. Second thing is, the way Swami does it is something which, that is the love of a mother, right? See, he didn't go to him and chide him, right? Why are you taking laddu? Taken out, nothing like that. When the whole hall is praying, doing Brahmarpanam, Swami does in his own way of thing of getting that laddu out of his plate and taking with him and showing that indication to him that don't take me for granted. At the same time, conveying that message without hurting him. That is the beauty of Bhagavan. That even I have seen many times, the way he communicates, that he gives a message to you without actually hurting. And that is the loving form of Bhagavan that we would see. Another incident I thought I should share with you on how when we are with Avatar, how loving and beautiful that those moments are. This had happened again in Kodaikanal in those lunch sessions. So in that session, there was a very prominent VIP who had come, and he was invited for that lunch session. And he was sitting on the first table, right next to Bhagwan's table, right opposite that. And Swami will typically, as a host, will ensure that everybody is taken care, and especially those the prominent people who are sitting in front, they are served well. And he went to this person and ensured that he's served properly. And he was a North Indian, so Swami asked the chapati to him. So what had happened was, Swami was happy with this particular person. So what Swami said that I want to serve chapati, bring the bowl. So the hot case came, and Swami was serving chapati to him. And somehow it happened that the chapati with a tongue, so it slipped out and fell down. So immediately the student came and picked up the chapati and kept it aside. And Swami served other chapatis to this person and gave the bowl back. As the bowl went to the serving counter, what the student did was, obviously the chapati which was kept aside, he didn't want to put it there. So he kept it aside on the side of the hot case. Swami said Brahmarpanam. Brahmarpanam started. Swami comes back to the serving table, picks up the hot case, puts this chapati next to the case, looks at this student, smiles at him, picks up the chapati which had fallen down apparently from Swami's hands, picks it up, puts it in his own plate, takes out the chapati from his plate, puts this chapati into his plate, and says, sort of an indication to the student, I dropped it, so I must eat it. He doesn't want to go waste. So that is the avataric, in spite of being a avatar, how sensitive, how caring he was as an example for all of us. He took that same chapati which accidentally had fallen off his hands, right? So that's something that so many examples. Another thing which I remember, how particular Swami is when he plans something. A typical thing he would do is that when he takes a group, he would ensure that he gives something, right? Always is somebody who gives, loves to give to others. So he will give some. So basically, the whole kit of essential items he would give typically when you go for Kodai. But see the minuteness with which he will monitor. So it happened once that Swami will typically give the razors, right? We are supposed to be well shaven. So along with toothbrush, paste, everything, he will also give razors. So one person who was in charge of procuring this in Vrindavan, it is to be brought from Bangalore and then sent to Kodaikanal. So always Swami would ask for the samples to be brought first and he will approve. Yeah, go ahead with this. And then the numbers are decided and purchased. So this particular razor was shown to Swami. Swami, this is a very good razor and it is new in the market. And this is something all the students would enjoy. This is what the teacher said, who was in charge of procuring these items. Swami asked one question to him. This razor, the cartridge requires a replacement, right? He said, it requires. Roughly how often? So he said maybe about once or twice in a week. Someone said, how much will it cost? So this was a very prominent brand. And at that point, it was one of the costliest brand. And the price of the cartridge was very high. So I said, see, you expect me to give this razor to students. When they go back to their hostel, will they be able to afford the cartridge? It was not possible for all of us to do that, right? And I said, no, then you can't give this. Buy something which will be good, but something which they can use comfortably in the hostel. That is the minuteness with which he will look into as a perfect host, right? Because it was like he was taking sort of a group of people that was his playground, so to say, in Kodaikanal. But a lot of learning points that he would give. And I thought that was the actual reason he organized this group, so that we can learn a lot of things during this a month or so that we spend with him. Coming back to another episode, what was sort of blessed for our family. I joined in 1995, and my elder brother, who was in Mumbai then, he's also an engineer. And when he came for the sports meet in my first year, when he saw the sports meet event, which is a one of the, I would say, what we say, is an event which is conceived, designed, and executed by the whole institute faculty and students. One of the most prestigious events for the whole student group. And it was wonderfully done. And he was mesmerized. And he said that, wish I could study in this college. He was already on the, his age was probably to his disadvantage. And he made a statement to my mother that probably this life I may not get chance because he was already 7 years into working with a very prominent organization after his engineering. He said, maybe it's too late to join Swami's college. I think in my next life, I would get a chance to be Swami student. This is what he said in Prashanthi when he had come for sports meet. And nothing that is expressed or prayed from the heart goes unnoticed. As would have it, when we discussed, I said, why not you apply? So admission is open and let's apply and see how you go through. You have an advantage. You have a 7 years experience post engineering and you might get it. So he was so charged up that he must get admission. He even decided to quit from his job. In fact, he quit from his job before coming for entrance to Prashanthi. And he applied. And this was 96, my first year, when I finished my first year. And Swami had taken me to Kodai. And during that time, the system was that when a student applies for management or any course, you used to get one letter, a card, really a card, a physically sent card as is a invite for your admission test. And my brother didn't get the card. And then when he inquired, they said that there is one semester in which your marks are a little lower than whatever eligibility. So we can't call you. So there is something called as a reject card that came to him, that you are not called for entrance test. And that really shook him because he had even sort of resigned from his, he had a very good job with one of the top companies, engineering companies. He was shattered. That those days it was not easy to connect. So he sent some message to somebody when we were in Kodai, and I got to know that he has not got the invite card. And I was completely perturbed and confused what to do. So in one session, one evening session, typically we avoid asking any personal thing, but I thought this is a very critical moment. So one evening session before going for bhajans, all students had left, so I stayed back. And when Swami came out to go to bhajan hall, he saw me and said, "What happened?" So I went near Swami and said, "Swami, small request. What happened?" Swami said. I said, "Swami, my brother had applied for MBA, but he has not got card invitation for exams." So I said, "Oh, is it? Why is it so?" I said, "There's some rule." I said, "As per the rules, he didn't get some particular qualification." He said, "Oh, achha." I said, "Swami, he's coming to Kodaikanal." They had planned. My whole parents, my family had planned to come. So they're coming. They're on the way to Kodaikanal. Swami said, "Oh, is he coming here?" I said, "Yes, he's coming to this time." Swami said, "Yeah, okay. Let me talk to him." A small conversation it happened. There was nothing that we discussed in detail. The thing went on, and my parents did arrive, and that was also a very dramatic event. The day they had planned, actually at that in those that period, Swami actually was planning to go back from Kodaikanal to Vrindavan. And the day on which I was told that they're going to arrive, so Swami said, you don't go for walk, you be there for the darshan. See, if your parents are come, call them, I will talk to them." And I went outside during darshan time to look for my parents. I didn't find them. And there was no means of any communication. I really didn't know what happened, and I had no clue why they had not turned up. So after the darshan, when Swami came back, I said, Swami, I looked for them. They are not seen anywhere around. So I don't know. So he said, "Doesn't matter. Let's see." And it went on. Then later on, I came to know, because of during some delays of the trains, connecting train issue and travel from probably from Chennai to Coimbatore and whatever the distance, they had lost a number of hours, and they actually reached the next day. And that was incidentally the day on which Swami decided to go back to Vrindavan. So he actually stayed back for a day. The next day, Swami called us for an interview. And this Swami told in the interview that actually I had planned to go today, but just because I had given a promise that I will talk to you, I have extended by one more day. So I'm going tomorrow because I wanted to talk to you. So he called our family, and my brother, when I saw, I was really shocked because his face had become sunk, and because he was so dejected that he didn't get called for the didn't get the call for entrance test. So Swami consoled, spoke to both my parents, my brother, my younger brother. "We'll see what we can do. Tomorrow anyway, I'm going to Vrindavan. All of you also come. We'll see what can be done." He didn't. Swami is a leader. He won't no, deviate from the rules, right? So he said, "Come to Vrindavan. We'll see what happens." Everything went on well, and all of us, the entourage, went back to Vrindavan. My parents also, all of them came back to Vrindavan. And just about 2 or 3 days later, one morning, I still remember after darshan, there used to be a lot of free time in Vrindavan. So after darshan, we used to do room cricket. We used to play in Vrindavan hostel. So I was playing with my other colleagues, and suddenly a message come from Sevadal, "Swami is calling you to Tari." I was perspiring, so I quickly put on fresh shirt and washed my face and ran to Trai Vrindavan. I went to the interview, and there Swami was sitting with the registrar and vice chancellor. Swami calls me. He says, Professor Venkatraman was vice chancellor there. He says, "देखो Venkatraman, ये बॉय का ब्रदर बहुत रोता है, उसको एडमिशन के लिए वो उसका एंट्रेंस टेस्ट के लिए कार्ड नहीं है, थोड़ा देखो कुछ कर सकते हैं, एंट्रेंस कर सकते, थोड़ा एग्जामिन करो." So both of them said, "No problem, Swami, we'll look into that." And they told me, "You just wait outside, we'll talk to you." So they came out. They said, "Where is your brother?" I said, He's there in Vrindavan, right here." They said, "Ask him to go immediately to Prashanthi, and he can appear for the entrance test." And they also said, in fact, the entrance test is right now going on, so he cannot attend probably, but we'll find a way out. Probably he can attend the remaining portion of the entrance. I'd see how Swami works, right? My brother had taken a room near ashram, and he had no clue that time, no mobile phones. How would I even connect to him to reach out? That you have to go, because the message from Swami was he should start now. This was around 11:30 in the morning. He should go now, 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. There was a bus used to go from Vrindavan at around 12:30 or so. So that was the instruction, should board that bus so that 4 o'clock he will reach there and report to the in charge of exams. How do I reach out? And see how Swami works. My brother and my younger brother, they had gone for some seva somewhere behind in the village. They were coming back. There was some hush that the door was open. Vrindavan door was open. No, there was some work going on in the regular path. So they were coming through the ashram gate and going out. They had come inside ashram gate. As I am coming outside Vrindavan, I see both my brothers walking in color dress because they had gone for some seva. And I rush and call them. Swami has told you must now start back, go up to Prashanthi. How the communication goes or how Swami arranges is miraculous. How it is happens that exactly that point I come out of Vrindavan. I don't know how to connect with them. I didn't even know where they're staying. The same time they are coming inside the ashram, just en route to the room they're staying. And I told, they went back and see how Swami arranges, because in a way, my brother, because he didn't get the entrance examination, he had not really prepared well. So it happened in such a way that same day the entrance test was going on. So Swami said, fine, entrance is fine. Let him appear for the GDN interview and you examine him fully into those two things. So he went there, and next day attended the balance remaining portion of the entrance test, and he did get selected with Swami's grace. Not only that, he also got a chance, I would say a golden chance. Probably all of us, many of us would wait for is to serve Swami physically for 10 years as Swami's physical attendant. So that's the way, one small heartfelt prayer and how Swami responds without actually deviating from the rules. Swami made it in such a way, he went through the entrance test, his name came in the formal list as selected, and then he came back and joined the Bharti campus. So one thing I realized over this journey of 40 years with Bhagwan, 40 plus years, is that any wish that we do, Swami has his own ways of getting it done, and that's why we have to be careful on what we ask for. I was telling you, my first seva was in Prashanthi, was in hospital, right? And I had no clue what management student will do in hospital, right? In fact, I didn't like medical, and I opted out of biology in my undergrad so that I can go for engineering. But luck would have it, after 10 years, when I came back from Jakarta, Swami placed me in hospital setup. In last almost 20 years, I have been in healthcare side. So, Swami is nothing in this world that we can say that this is something I like, I don't like. I find that when Swami puts you into a particular role or a position or a seva, there is a purpose behind it. And if you take that as a prasada, he ensures the way forward for it. And I would relate that to, I think I should, how much time do we have? I think I'll share this and then we can close. When I joined the management course in Prashanthi, I felt that I had lost a number of precious years in Mumbai without coming to Bhagwan, right? I could have probably studied from a school days. I don't know why I didn't apply. So as to pray to Bhagwan, I didn't go get those opportunities to study with you in the school or college. I just came for 2 years, not enough. So I had that prayer that when I joined you as a student, let me be there to work, serve for you and be there. And that's what I had told my mother when I came for MBA, that I'm going to Prashanthi, I'm going to do my management and I will serve Swami there. I will not, please allow me to work there. I will not come back. We were not my mother also probably was not very serious about it at that point. But my fervent request was that Swami should give me a chance to serve. And 1997, when I completed my MBA, there were about 5-6 of us in our class who wanted to be there in Prashanthi and work for Bhagwan. And somehow Swami ensured that You know, actually, none of us stayed back. In fact, so what happened was there were three of us whom Swami called for interview and said that there is an organization, there is a company which is coming up, which incidentally Swami opened, went and inaugurated. And Swami said, you go and work there. And for a moment, I thought Swami's testing, right? He's somebody who doesn't give you something without you being really pining for it. So I thought he's testing. So I thought he would say, and he will see how fervently I'm praying, and he will allow me to stay back with him. It would happen on 22nd May 1997. One day Swami calls us, three of us, and says that this organization, their directors are coming to interview you. And do well, and if you are selected, join them. Tell you honestly, even on that day, I really sort of felt that Swami was testing me. Out of three of us, these two will join there, and Swami will say, okay, this chap, let him stay back with me. I appeared for the interview. Evening, Swami calls us for an interview and says they have come back and said that all three of you are selected and you should join. This was 23rd May, and he said 1 week later, 1st June, you join the organization. And that time was I really came to know that he wanted me to go out. And something which I didn't accept at that point of time. I still remember I went back to hostel. I didn't want to cry out in the room, so I went to the bathroom, opened the tap loud so that people can't hear. And I just cried and cried and cried. That, why are you doing this one? There are people, I know there are people who don't want to stay there but are staying there. And here is somebody who wants to stay and you want to send him away. It's not fair. Anyway, but then I had given the promise to Swami that I would do whatever he says, and whatever he had given was prasadam. I did go and join Jakarta in this organization for 4 years, and Swami allowed me to work there and come back to him. It's another big story. We don't not time for that now, but I realized there was a purpose for which he sent me for those 4 years to Jakarta. There was so much to learn, so much to share, so much to learn from so many people around there. Many of the Swami's devotees I met were there was an amazing experience of learning with them. So everything that happens, there is a purpose. It's the learning I got. And Swami was kind enough to sort of still hear that yearning from the heart. He allowed me to come back in 2001 and allowed me to work in his institution. So one thing I learned, that whatever we pray to him from our hearts is something that should be something which for the public good or bigger good. And if it helps you in your own growth, in your personal growth, in your spiritual growth, Swami will find his ways to get it done. And that is something that I want to leave with. And before I end, I would like to draw the same thing that I started with. When Swami is in our heart, right? Now that he's not in the physical form, I remember this incident which I thought I must share, and we will conclude with that. Is what Brother Ravi Kumar, I think all of us know him. He's one of the prominent singers from Prashanthi music. There's one Kavali which he has sung. I've heard it at least 100 times. Maybe he has sung it 1,000 times. Sai bin Rahana Jai. And there is a small background story to that, which probably some of you know. When this particular Kavali was composed, the actual wording which was that time written before it was presented to Bhagwan was that the starting stanza which is there. Currently the way it is sung is Mohabbat ki kami agar dil mein ehsaas hota hai. But the original line was Mohabbat ka jab dil mein ehsaas hota hai. So when you feel that love in your heart, jara jhanko to pao ki Swami paas hota hai. That was the original composition which was written by one of the students. But what Ravi tells is that we don't know how that changed to the current wordings. But there is a message in this particular line which is sung now, which is Mohabbat ki kami ka dil mein jab ehsaas hota hai. And as Ravi brother puts it so nicely, it applies so well now that whenever we feel that there is something missing, right, in the heart, when you have that Mohabbat ki kami ka jab dil mein ehsaas hota hai, zara jhanko, just look within. And पाओगे कि स्वामी पास होता है. It's not anywhere else. He's right in our heart. So that is one version I have heard 100 times, but every time it is sung, Bhagwan was in his blissful form, and all of us used to enjoy it. It was one of my favorite. It is one of my favorite versions, and I thought it has a very good message. So I thought we could sort of end this session with that version, which I'll request brother to start. We'll sing that together and close.
मोहब्बत की कमी दिल में अगर एहसास होता है, जरा झांको तो पाओगे कि साईं पास होता है. ओ करिश्मा ये उसी का है कि दुनिया खूबसूरत लगती है, वरना आदमी को आदमी क्या रास होता है. साईं बिन रहा न जाए, साईं बिन रहा न जाए, साईं बिन रहा न जाए, साईं बिन रहा न जाए. चैन न आए मुझे, चैन न आए, चैन न आए मुझे, चैन न आए. साईं बिन रहा न जाए, साईं बिन रहा न जाए. जब से देखा तुझको साईं मेरे, दर्श के प्यासे नैना सांझ सवेरे. जब से है देखा तुझको साईं मेरे, दर्श के प्यासे नैना सांझ सवेरे. मिट मर जाए तुझ पे हमसे न रूठे तू, जिंदगी सौंप दे हम चरणों में तेरे यूं, जिंदगी सौंप दे हम चरणों में तेरे यूं, जिंदगी सौंप दे हम चरणों में तेरे यूं. मन मंदिर से जाओ न सारे, मन मंदिर से चैन न आए मुझे, चैन न आए, साईं बिन रहा न जाए, साईं बिन रहा न तू मेरा दिल मेरी धड़कन, तू ही है मंजिल मेरी. मेरा जीवन तेरा दर्शन, मेरी सब सांसें भी तेरी. तुझ पे कुर्बान हो ये जीवन, तुझ पे कुर्बान हो ये जीवन. अब तमन्ना है ये मेरी, अब तमन्ना है ये मेरी, बस तमन्ना है ये मेरी. तुझ पे कुर्बान हो ये जीवन, अब तमन्ना है ये मेरी, अब तमन्ना है ये मेरी.
with with such beautiful version. And that message, every line is so important. I think we should keep that message in our heart. And really, thanks to all of you for sort of giving me a chance to ruminate on these messages and remind for myself that Bhagavan is with all of us. हमारे मन के मंदिर के अंदर. With that message, I take your leave and thank you for the opportunity. Sai Ram, Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, Neeraj ji, I don't know what to say. Swami plans his instrument to appear on a day and charges so wonderfully that it is only he who can do it. And how he plans it is his unique way to do it. When you started with Sai Charan Sukhdai Man, Sai Bina Jina Kya Hai? Wonderful, you touched the point about the indweller Sai, that there is a need to look inward and the Swami is here, nowhere else. You don't have to look at the physical form. You began the entire narrative with this bhajan, which is so profound, and it was a beautiful beginning. And I would say, as you rightly put it, Sai, incidentally, you were here today, and that he only can do it. He only can plan it. The avatar as Parasmani has molded all of you into such beautiful gems who are spreading the glory of Swami. But the aha moment as an alchemist came in your life when Pad Namaskar was granted, and the second time he took the letter from you, making you realize that two things. One is grace and blessings are of course required, and Swami is ever there to give it in abundance, but it has to be backed up by efforts. With your experience, you made that point very beautifully across. And also, how you really concluded that yes, Seva actually gets you close to God, is that your madhyam of reaching Swami was through the Seva when you began, getting into Swami's fold, while you had a lineage of, people who were with Swami for such a long time, but yet Seva was the madhyam through which you got close to Swami. Very nicely you put about 2 charans that you have to get hold of. While, you can desire to have the physical, Pada Namaskar, you have to get hold of 2 charans, that is love all and serve all, love, serve. Very nicely put. Since this kind of, paradigm that you brought out is just entrenched into our minds. The 2 charans we always have to hold is love and serve. The way you explained about the 3 types of doctors and how that Swami is so kind, merciful. He first gets you into his fold. He tries to, do everything to mold you into that. And then he wants to get it done. If you are not getting in, he will create situations beautifully shared. And very beautiful experience about your brother. If the prayers are intense and from the heart, Swami gets moved very easily. So that intense earning for Swami melts Swami, and Swami means for devotees only. Devotees. The moment devotees remember Sai with heart, Sai is there, ever there. You just have to draw and tap, and his grace is there. Beautiful. And also you concluded once again, coming back to the same thing about मोहब्बत की कमी जब एहसास होती है. Once again, the same aspect of the indweller Sai, that when you feel the absence, physical form is not important. He's ever present there. His love is eternal. It's flowing, overpowering. So thank you so much, Neeraj Bhaiya, for making our evening absolutely memorable with your lovely experience with Swami. Thank you so much. And it's ordained by him. This session is ordained by him, and we are all lucky to be recipient of this kind of love from you. And our Singapore brothers, wonderful work, right, for almost for 2.5 years, it has been going absolutely on out every Sunday this Govind Satsangh has been going on. It started with COVID Satsangh because we had to do online first, and then it got converted into Govind Satsangh, and the name has really caught on. Thank you so much, Neeraj Bhaiya, for this. Swami addresses everyone as Prema Swarup Lara, right? He is an embodiment of love, epitome of love. So if all of you permit, with gratitude to Bhagwan for having sent Neeraj ji as angel to us, I would also end up the session with a small bhajan followed by Samasta Loka, if it's okay with you all. Sai Ram. प्रेम ईश्वर है, ईश्वर प्रेम है। प्रेम ईश्वर है, ईश्वर प्रेम है। हर धड़कन में साई समा है, ईश्वर प्रेम है। हर धड़कन में साई समा है, ईश्वर प्रेम है। हर धड़कन में साई समा है, ईश्वर प्रेम है। प्रेम ईश्वर है, ईश्वर प्रेम है। राम रहीम कृष्ण करीम, राम रहीम कृष्ण करीम। बोलो राम रहीम कृष्ण करीम, राम रहीम कृष्ण करीम। ज़ोराष्ट्र येशु नानक, ज़ोराष्ट्र येशु नानक, कोई भी नाम जपो रे मनवा, ईश्वर प्रेम है। कोई भी नाम जपो रे मनवा, ईश्वर प्रेम है। मनवा कोई भी नाम जपो रे मनवा, ईश्वर प्रेम है। कोई भी नाम जपो रे मनवा, ईश्वर प्रेम है। प्रेम ईश्वर है, ईश्वर प्रेम है। हर धड़कन में साई समा है, ईश्वर प्रेम है। हर धड़कन में साई समा है, ईश्वर प्रेम है। ईश्वर प्रेम है। बोलो राम रहीम कृष्ण करीम, सौराष्ट्र यीशु नानक, कोई भी नाम जपो रे मनवा ईश्वर प्रेम है। मनवा कोई भी नाम जपो रे मनवा ईश्वर प्रेम है। प्रेम ईश्वर है, ईश्वर प्रेम है। Sai Ram, we will conclude the session with 3 Samasta Lokas. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu, Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu, Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu। Om Shanti Shanti Shanti।
जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की।
Jai।
Swami will know who the speaker for next week
Sai Ram
is.
to all.
And thank you so much, Neeraj Bhai and Srinivas Anna, for helping get yet another message for us through this satsang. Sai Ram. Till next week.